Hello and welcome to Moral Side of the News, our weekly discussion of today's top stories from a moral, ethical, and religious perspective. I'm Sean Kalin with the WHAS Crusade for Children, and I'm joined today, as always, by a distinguished panel of local religious leaders. Reverend Dr. George Wasson, Faith Point Church, Brother John Stoltz, St. Aloysius Catholic Church, Rabbi Stan Miles, Louisville Melton School, and Deacon Greg Gitschier, St. Patrick Catholic Church. We begin this week with the attempted assassination of President Trump at the White House Correspondents Dinner 2 weeks ago.
Tonight, the full chaos that unfolded at the White House Correspondents Dinner is coming into sharper view. The moment federal agents rushed through the crowd of 2,600 of the nation's most powerful government officials and the journalists who cover them, bounding onto the stage and whisking President Trump to safety. The night had been on schedule. Presentation of the colors, the crowd rising for the national anthem, the president and the first lady on the dais. Then just outside the ballroom, security cameras capturing this scene, a gunman charging past the security checkpoint, the video later posted by the president. Moments later, chaos in the ballroom. The Secret Service rushed to the front of this room in a way that I have never seen, knocking over little barricades that were here, crashes as they came down. The agents heading straight for the president. He was talking with Oz Perlman, the mentalist, the evening's entertainer. First Lady Melania Trump, visibly shocked, mouthing the words, "What happened?" as the Secret Service stormed the stage. Vice President J.D. Vance pulled out of his chair, an agent throwing himself toward the president.
I'm watching up, and I watch the two Secret Service guys get behind the president, bring him down. In my head, I go, oh no, are we about to die?
As the president was hurried backstage, in the room, chaos. The crowd dropping to the ground, hiding under tables. The cabinet secretaries taken away by their own security details. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. And soon we learned law enforcement had subdued a suspect, 31-year-old Cole Allen, seen here on the ground of the hotel. Authorities say he was armed with knives and 2 guns, including a shotgun. He is a teacher from Torrance, California. Officials say he took a train to Washington and checked into the hotel. And tonight, sources tell us he allegedly sent his family a message just before the attack, describing himself as a friendly federal assassin.
Wow. So panel, we come out to us, and we'll start with you, Deacon Greg. You expertly can speak to this from the Secret Service side of things. What do you see here as a third assassination attempt in really less than a year and a half?
Yep. To say the least, well, I did almost 22 years and protected 6 presidents, been at that location several times. We actually called that Hilton the Hinckley Hilton because it's the same Hilton where President Reagan was shot when I was still a police officer here, and that's when I kind of really got interested in the Secret Service, when I saw how quick the agents reacted to that and the machine guns coming out kind of captivated me. But so we studied in the Secret Service Academy this hotel. People don't realize that this has over 1,100 rooms in it. That is a big campus, okay? Big campus. And at this particular event, I heard the guy just say 2,600 people were at this event. Also realized that there was other events going on besides this in wedding receptions, graduation parties, anniversaries. And so we didn't control this environment. And as Secret Service, that's what we like to do. We like to control everything. I've been retired for over 20 years, but we still have the same principle that we have an inner circle around the president, and those are the people you saw jump up on the stage and protect them and get in front of them and get them off. You have the middle, which are the magnetometer metal detectors. Then you have the outside layer, which are people that supposedly the staff people are scanning the people only with the right tickets to come in. And then we have something I did for a long time, counter surveillance unit, which I guess you could say we are undercover Secret Service agents in the crowd just to see if anything catches our attention that doesn't fit, okay? So those are the 3 layers that we have. Running through that magnetometer, the first thing I thought of is, they were already breaking down the metal detectors because they'd been going for almost 45 minutes. I think that's a mistake. I think you'll see that stop like right away. They're not going to break those down anymore because that's a distraction. People watching the uniform. We have a uniform division and an agent division. I was an agent. The uniform guys do the magnetometers. They do the canine dogs, right? So I think you're going to see them not breaking down so quick anymore, right? Because that was a distraction. The other thing that I'd personally like to see is like, when you go to Disney World and you have the serpentine waiting lines, yeah, we need to do that on these kind of events because you can't have somebody run on a dead run like that, running right through. You saw the results of that. So I think I think you will see adjustments. President Trump, says he is going to come back to do this again. I don't know if it'll be at that hotel. That might be a good reason to build that place on the White House lawn, the ballroom, and he's only going to get it for maybe a year if he's lucky. But in the future, for future presidents, we will own that property, and nobody is going to get in there without coming through all the checkpoints and ID and who they are and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Anyone else with regard? Like, it seems to me like the level of political violence is on both sides is at a level that we haven't really talked about on the show. This might be a jumping off point maybe to talk about that, but your thoughts on that and this event?
It's not that the pot is stirred. The pot is boiling over constantly, over and over and over, and it is happening regardless of the office, regardless of the party. It's the way that this country is looking at political discourse, particularly in an election year. It's relentless, and it's so very disturbing. I mean, I've had it with commercials. I've had it from both parties. You don't learn anything from a commercial. It's just relentless propaganda from both sides, and enough.
I agree with Stan. There's a real coarsening of political discourse that has been occurring on all sides. I don't look at it as particular blaming either partisan area there. And it's so much so that people really don't like it. Only if it appeals to some emotional sense do they find some kind of appeal to it. But really, I think that political discourse can be really good. And I'm thinking it's out there. We just don't see it as much. Some may think of it as boring, but I mean, to me, ideally, our good political discourse would be about our ideas, our policy, and our values, and they should be debated, and therefore with lots of participation and to debate policy, to look at all of that, and the debate could even be vigorous. For what we need. I think that would actually be really good. I think it would capture a lot of people's attention. But now what we see a lot are attacks on persons and even spoken not very well, and it doesn't really bring up culture too much. That's what you see a lot of. Instead of something much more thoughtful, something really good for the country. And I would like to see more of that, and it's possible.
Yeah, I'm not sure when the tide shifted, when we moved from being able to have, as you said, heated debates, right? Where I'm just old enough that growing up in school, like we had debate teams, and we learned how to debate and have conversations with others that we adamantly disagreed with, and we could still disagree, but that wouldn't lead to hatred, right? We could still address an issue from various sides and say, what do you think about this? What do you feel about this? Why do you think that way? Why do you feel that way? But what we're played today are the sound bites, right? The clickbaits, I've often referred to them as just to kind of stir us up a little bit, instead of saying, hey, let's just get everybody out and let's talk about the issues. Let's try to get through some of the stuff and just really get down to where do the candidates stand, where are our policies, like what is the essential to that thing that we're looking at. it's just a sad commentary, I think. What did he refer to himself as, a friendly federal assassin or something? Like, really? Like, that's what you called yourself? Like, how did we ever get to the point where we would call a federal assassin friendly, right? And so I think it's just sad that, especially as a pastor, as a Christian, like, to see how this is just denigrated to this place where, wow, the level of vitriol and hostility is just off the roof. It's crazy.
We need to know what these folks represent. How are you going to lead our government? I don't care what you think about your opponent or opponents. That's meaningless. What you want to be elected, okay, what do you do when you assume that office? What direction do you want to take this country?
It's the personal attacks. When, we saw the debate last night out in California where one called, well, you're a liar, and we know you, and you're a millionaire and you're trying to take money away from millionaires, and they get very personal, and calling, whether they call somebody a communist or they call them a pedophile or a rapist or child rapist. You see these manifestos when these people do these shootings, and just like the CEO of New York, remember? Of course, they're acting like that guy's some kind of a folk hero now that shot a man, in the street. But and then this guy that went after President Trump, and by the way, that's the third attempt in a year and a half. So I'd say chances are we have some more attempts coming up, and unfortunately, if that's the case. But, even the manifestos say, I'm going to take this guy out because he's a Nazi or he's a communist or he's so you're doing those personal attacks. And like you said, Rabbi, let's hear about what you can do for the economy or for the homeless or what you can do to bring these groups together instead of just personally attacking. Because when you personally attack somebody and categorize them as a Nazi or a communist or whatever, it makes it easier for someone to say, well, you know what, I got a gun. I could do something about this. I'll be a hero. And unfortunately, we see that.
I think how easy it is for us to get sidetracked to other issues, right? So we saw the story, and the big conversation point has obviously been the new ballroom that is looking to be added on to the White House, where, they currently have a place, but it doesn't really seat any number of large capacity.
No, I've been in it. It doesn't.
Right, and there's just not a place.
Right.
Well, if we've gotten to this point in our world where we need higher levels of security and protection and those kinds of things, it seems like it's a natural thing, right? Because the White House is going to be the most secure place that we could have our presidents and heads of states, and we could really monitor much easier who gets in and who gets out. I've been to that hotel. I was able to go to the National Prayer Breakfast several years ago, and I was astounded at just how tight it is. And they said that room, you could barely move from table to table. It just looked like the perfect storm for problems to occur.
Yeah. I just got to point one other thing. That ballroom is a big ballroom, but it was underneath the level where the guy ran through, by the way. Those aren't on the same floor. But all those rooms above that giant ballroom, anybody could have brought explosives in and had everything come crashing down. Now think about that. 2,600 people in a ballroom and the whole building come down on them. That's something that I read online with some of my colleagues, that really could have caused problems because, once again, we don't own the building. We can't go room to room and search with bomb-sniffing dogs, 1,100 rooms. We don't have enough people to do that, at this time. Hopefully they're going to change that. That's a great point.
Yeah. It just seems like it would be a security nightmare to have an event like this inside any hotel.
Yeah, sure.
You don't know who has a room.
But it seems like it wasn't that long ago, was it, that you could do those kind of events and you didn't have the high level of fear or caution that you have today. And again, I think it just speaks to just this heightened level of hostility and anger and vitriol that we are experiencing in our world, that it has made events like this very difficult. What are they supposed to do, right?
I mean, they asked the president, would you be willing to wear a bulletproof vest from now on? And certainly numerous presidents have done that in the past, I know for a fact. But, and he said, no, it makes me look fat. That's typical Trump, I guess. But this is an election mid-cycle, right? Mid-season cycle. So expect him to be out campaigning a lot. And that's like going to ball games, going to, charity events and stuff. So, the agents working now, I've been with 6 presidents or former presidents, and I think these men and women on the Secret Service detail for the president, we call PPD, Presidential Protective Division, they got their hands full. They absolutely, because the threat level is off the charts.
I was struck by watching the video how quickly they were able to get Vance off stage.
Yep.
And how much slower it was to get the president off the stage. And was that maybe his doing, saying, wait, I don't want to go?
Yes.
How does that work? I don't know. I mean, they got the vice president
Well, they grabbed him and jerked him out of the chair, and they went right, which was the shortest distance. Besides, you think about it, we always got to consider, is this a setup for a real ambush next? So if you have a shots or explosion over here, we funnel everyone here, and that's where they're waiting for us, whatever. So we always got to think like a little bit 3D chess. So Vance went off the quickest way, and they jerked him out of the chair and brought him over. I think President Trump, you saw where they actually put him down on the ground, and that was probably just the agent in charge decision to do that right away. But yes, he did resist. He did want to see what's going on. Think about Pennsylvania when he got shot in the ear. He's like holding his hand up, fight. He just didn't. He wanted to stand up, I guess. But our job as agents, if you're on one of these details, is to cover and evacuate. So what they did is they covered him up, and they saw it was clear, and they had a bunch of other agents jump in front of him. Our CAT guys are the guys in the SWAT suits. You notice how they jumped right up, ready to take any kind of a secondary attack. So the agents, I give them a lot of compliments. They reacted just the way we were trained over and over again. They covered and evacuate. A lot of those people out in the crowd with suits were not Secret Service, because you have cabinet members, and they have security from their own particular fields. So it was kind of a mixture of different security events there.
Probably a lot of security in that building. Like most of the people you saw might have been probably security
a lot of
people.
Them, with the pin on and the earpiece. That's where dead giveaways, right?
Okay, well, let's turn on to a second topic that had a lot of security around it, the Kentucky Derby this week. But Golden Tempo wins the Kentucky Derby 152, and it will go down as history as Cherie DeVoe becomes the first female trainer to win the Run for the Roses.
I can't believe you did that. I can't believe it either.
Cherie, what are you feeling right now?
I don't know. I'm trying. I'm really trying to take it all in. A lot has been made about a female trainer winning the Kentucky Derby, and I'm honored that I get to be that person. And I hope this just paves the way for any other little girl with big dreams or woman with big dreams.
What's this like for you?
Listen, it's fantastic. My stepfather won the Derby in 2005, John Sheriffs. For Cherie to do it today, nobody works harder, regardless of gender, and it was a very proud moment.
I'm just feeling over the moon. It's a dream come true for me. It's my 11th time trying, and finally get the win. Just very happy, thankful. I feel blessed.
Jose, what does it mean to do this with Cherie, knowing what she just did today?
Yeah, it's a history for her. I'm very happy for her. She gave me an amazing opportunity to ride her horses, and I'm very thankful for that, and hopefully we do it again.
I'm quite overwhelmed, to be honest. I keep getting the has it set in? No, it hasn't. Can't wait to take a moment to breathe and just to really let this all set in.
So panel, we come out to you. It's not lost on me the irony that we have a panel full of males here and no female to help talk about this story, but not by choice. But what are your thoughts on the Derby 152 and the first female jockey or first female trainer to win?
It was almost perfect. It was almost perfect. You had the first female trainer. You had a horse coming from dead last to win it. You had in the win and the place 2 brothers competing against one another. The only thing that's missing is the fact that because of the way things are scheduled and because of the fragility of thoroughbred horses, we're not going to have the potential for a Triple Crown winner this year. That would have been absolute perfection if this horse would have been given the opportunity to win the Triple Crown. And I can understand full well why not, why he isn't. But that would, other than that, it was wonderful. It was great.
As a girl dad, I love stories like this because whether it's the jockey or the trainer, right, we see that we still have a country, we still have a place where if you work hard, if you put in the time and the sweat and the energy, you can achieve amazing things, right? The story talked about before how, she worked part-time back in the stables kind of thing and worked her way up to this place where she's the trainer whose horse won the Kentucky Derby. What a success story, right? Or this jockey who 11 times, right, he's there and he wins. Again, I think it's a great testimony. We often in this program talk about the really difficult parts of life and the really difficult things that we go through. But these are amazing success stories, right? That we can say, it's not all bad. Like, look what you can do with the right amount of work and passion and doing what it takes. I love stories like this because I heard that she was back the next day doing her job, doing what she needed to do. I like that.
I don't know much about horse racing. One of the things I heard about the winner here is that this horse, I think for the past few races, would stay in the back and like last and then take off and run to win the race. So then I thought, okay, as I've heard that, is that the horse or is it the jockey or is it the trainer? And then I thought, if it is the trainer, what an interesting strategy or a brilliant strategy. It's just taking by surprise, and there's such emotion and something that really captures your attention when you see a race like that. So I think it's wonderful that also that she makes history as a hardworking person who gave her time and then came out successful, like what George said. That's very good. Yeah.
I suspect it was a combination of all three of those things.
Yeah.
The horse has done that before, as you said. Yeah. The jockey said, well, once everyone committed to their positions, that gave me a chance to go left or right and make my move, And, I don't know if they ever figured out the total yardage, but that horse ran a lot of yards, maybe some extra steps. But maybe the horse was trained to do it, finish that hard. So I thought it was a fantastic, like you said, 1 out of 11 he wins, and 151 derbies, a female trainer has never won, and it all happened. So what a great day for.
Well, a phrase that came to my head as we were watching that again was, I remember watching years ago Veggie Tales, and one of the expressions was "is biblical," and the last shall be first, right? What a great illustration! The last doesn't have to finish the last. The last actually does get to finish first, and I like that.
With hard work and with determination.
And I think in the industry, that horse is considered a closer. That's what everyone knows it by. So, and it has done it. So, yeah. So we have just about 4.5 minutes left. Probably not enough time to tackle this, but let's give it a shot. Several reports over the past couple of weeks, and some major news organizations, Fox News, CBS News, point to the rise in young adults attending church, and particularly in Gen Z. A couple of headlines: Gen Z flocking to Catholic churches in New York City for youth groups, social events. Catholic church attendance is rising with the number of youth at Mass. Median U.S. worship service attendance rebounding after the pandemic. That's from the BaptistNews.com. And Ministry Watch, church attendance is up for the first time in decades, according to a new report. All in the past month, these stories have come out. So in 4 minutes, what's really drawing these young folks to church and back to church, and how do churches meet that hunger in a meaningful way?
I can give you a one-word answer. Folks are seriously looking for community. They miss it. We're still coming out of the COVID pandemic. It's not over. And people are dealing with ways to cope. And I think that they're looking for a place for community, and they are finding it in our religious institutions.
I think it was Augustine who said that we were all created with a God-shaped hole inside of us that longs to be filled, and it won't be filled until it's filled with the presence of God. And I guess the hope for me as a pastor is we'll stop looking for love in all the wrong places, right? And maybe looking for love in the real place, that our lives will never be complete until they're completely filled with the presence of God. And so that's what I hope. I hope that they're looking around at their peers and the generation before them and said, we've been looking in the wrong place. And their eyes are being opened. And I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I see it in my church. I see more people coming. I see younger people attending as well, younger people interested in becoming Catholic. My sense is kind of what has been said is true, that there's a longing for a personal contact and community. I read it as a longing for transcendence and meaning in their life, a sense to be able to come to some kind of understanding about life through a particular religious or faith perspective. I think that's important. And so they're searching for all of these kinds of things. It happens to be a phenomenon right now. I think it happens as groups, or you notice that more people coming instead of just if it's a few people, it doesn't make news. But when you say there's a phenomenon, there's more people that you see, they're making word of mouth contact. They're talking to each other. And I think that there's something that happens through that as well.
I believe the young people are looking for more reverence instead of entertainment in the church. And I think the sacraments and the reverence is there. When I left the police department here to go to the Secret Service, the guy that rode next to me went to the DEA in New York City. He's now retired up there. He called me 2 weeks ago and said, hey, I tried to go to Mass Sunday night and I couldn't get in the door in Manhattan because the kids were lined up around the block and it was full. He said, what the heck's going on? He was complaining. And I'm like, Johnny, that's a good thing. He goes, well, I went to another church, it was the same thing. All these people are coming to Sunday night, and I said, well, maybe they're giving away pizza. I don't know. But he says, no, something's going on. I'm like, yeah. And then I hear this story, and I'm thinking, man, something really is going on. So that's great. I love it. Yeah.
Do you think the ascendancy of Pope Leo has had anything to do with this, particularly in America, in the United States?
He's getting a lot of press in the American media, so that could do something. The fact that sometimes he speaks in English where other popes have not, that may have an effect through the American media. He's talking in English. That could have an effect on people.
I'd like to think that it's an actual movement of God, just drawing people back to a relationship with him. And I think it's also a response as well, just seeing what's going on in the world.
All right, well, good discussion. I wish we had more time to talk about that, but thanks to our panel for joining us today, Reverend Dr. George Wasson, Faith Point Church, Father John Stoltz, St. Aloysius Catholic Church, Rabbi Stan Miles, Louisville Melton School, and Deacon Greg Gitschier, St. Patrick Catholic Church. Big show next week, 75th anniversary show for Moral Side of the News. That's right, this show's been on the air for this is the last show of the 74th season. So tune in next week for a special show, and have a great week. Thanks, everybody.